I can't stop thinking about Jillian Michaels on CNN the other night and that insane argument she was making that we have too much white guilt about slavery.
Slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay, you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race.
So I made a video about this yesterday, but realized, you know what, I wasn't finished going off on how she tried to bend over backward to say that we shouldn't be making such a big deal about slavery anymore. So her point was supposed to be that the Smithsonian Institute focuses too much on white responsibility for things like slavery, and I think she proved that they don't focus on it enough. So at the risk of amplifying what she had to say, I think we have to call out this kind of crap. Like how she just said you can't tie imperialism and slavery to just one race. In America, how do you not? Whites were the perpetuators and beneficiaries of slavery. Whites were the landowners who built empires off free labor, and Southern whites were the ones who convinced the citizens of the South to join up and fight in the Civil War, despite the fact that it hurt all those citizens and their own economic interests because the free slave labor in the South meant less work for poor Southerners who then got forced into a civil war over it. And then when slavery was all said and done, it was whites who benefited from Jim Crow laws, from redlining, from aggressive policing, from gerrymandering, from lynching. And you'll hear people argue that it has been 160 years since the end of the Civil War, but it's 2025, and we are still naming high schools after Confederate generals today. Not to mention that slavery still exists today as well.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
Do you realize that during the height of slavery, close to 100% of black Americans were enslaved? So she quotes this misleading number that doesn't begin to represent the outsized influence that slavery had on American life, economics, politics, geography, industry. And look, if one person was a slaveholder, that's too many. And we wouldn't use this argument for anything else. Drunk driving isn't a big deal. It's only 2% of American drivers. Planes are safe. Only 2% of flights crash. In what world does that argument make sense?
Do you know who was the first race to try to end slavery?
Again, such a weird way to try to downplay white responsibility for slavery because there happen to be white people who pushed to end it. So if an arsonist calls the fire department, do we forgive the arsonist? Look, I know not all white people or whatever, but here's the deal. During the height of slavery, just by virtue of not being enslaved, you could argue that all whites benefited from slavery in some form or fashion, whether the economic benefits of cheap goods from free labor or the after effects of racism and then being a member of the ruling class, the list goes on. So when it's all said and done, of all the things that Jillian said the other night, all the junk, one thing that she did well was to prove the point that when it comes to our cultural understandings of slavery and its legacy, we need more awareness, not less.